What's up, ladies and gents, and welcome back to Forza Horizon 5. We are here with the A Mini Adventure seasonal event, or seasonal championship. I don't know why it sometimes says seasonal event and sometimes seasonal championship at the top there. That's not entirely explained to me, or not entirely clear to me. So we have to use a mini, as it already says, and it needs to be B class. So 601 to 700 rating. It's a dirt championship, which means the AI is going to be pretty darn good. A lot better than it was in the street one, if you watched that. Dirt is probably the hardest one to do. And then I think cross country, street race, and road racing. Pretty sure. I would rank them in that order, from hardest to easiest. Well, and drag races are, well, it depends on the car you have, but there's not a whole lot you can do, you know. I expected them to have all these X-rates, and the X-rate sucks at high speeds, so this is the same race we had last week. We once again want to make sure we get as far out as possible in these starting corners, especially here and then for this one as well. And now we have 3 cars ahead of us, which I'm not a big fan of. I'm sure we can somehow make it work. We're now driving on the outside of this guy. And now we're using our speed advantage because we have a car that is naturally a little bit more speedy but a little worse off-road. And it has an off-road tune, don't get me wrong, but a little bit more on the speedy side, which has its advantages when actually trying to get past some of these cars. And now we are just defending our position, which, if we don't completely mess up, shouldn't be too hard. I'm gonna shortly brake before this jump. Makes it a lot safer to actually get through cleanly. I'm gonna have to focus shortly. We built up a little bit of a lead through fairly clean driving through there. But this is a section where the AI normally is pretty good as well, thanks to a grip advantage. Especially these medium corners. They still suck in fast corners, luckily. But we have a pretty comfortable lead now, so. Luckily this is a B-class championship, and the slower the class, the worse the AI, or well, the easier it is for you to handle the cars. I think the AI performs about the same in each class. But obviously the cars become easier to handle, easier to drive to its maximum, and I guess that's where the advantage comes from being, or from easier, from lower classes being easier. And this second half of the track is, well, it is sort of technical, but it's not too big of a problem. It's very fair corners, there's nothing too special in it. I mean, obviously when you drive it a little bit risky and you kind of drift through some of these checkpoints and barely get them, then that could backfire, but I'm just not someone who can slow down and drive a little bit slower. I mean, I drive sorta carefully now, but I think if you slow down intentionally and you go slowly, you're prone to making mistakes, so I still think you should go about as well. Yeah, massive speed. So I still think you should try to go pretty fast and see where it leads you.
Was?
It was a pretty long race actually, but then again we are driving B class, so. There's 20 points. This is a breeze so far today. There are even more new trailblazers. There's another one. No, that's not it. Where's the second race? There's one. Oh, first circuit race. As you might be aware, I'm not a big fan of circuit racing, so let's see how it goes. It shouldn't be too big of an issue, obviously, but still not a big fan. Generally speaking, when you play against the AI in circuit races, it is strongest in lap 1 and then progressively gets a little bit slower. At least that used to be the case, and I didn't really notice it changing all of that, so I would assume that just is going on. Hey, I got an accolade and another one. Yeah, I didn't do the dirt racing accolades. I did the road racing ones, are those complete. And most of the street scene ones. So this race is a whole lot of road and a little bit of dirt. It still has some dirt, but like there is a very big part of the race is road racing. So it kind of pays to have a car like this, although the X-Ray is actually pretty good here because its lack of top speed doesn't really matter. Here we kind of did a switcheroo maneuver, where we have a wide entry, but we have a much better exit. And then get to the inside line behind him and dart into it. I thought we can get the nose in. That was pretty good. Yeah, I'm really not very good for that corner. Curiously, they seem to stink it up in the dirt part of the race now, which is normally where their advantage lies, but well, they don't seem to do so hard in either part. I already mentioned it in the street scene championship. Didn't think of the word, but yeah, I already mentioned in the street scene championship that if you care about the tune code, just let me know. I can post it in the comments if you have a question, or maybe I should state it at the start of the video, but in the street scene I explained it a little bit more, but basically the thing is I just pick something that I seem to enjoy or seem to like from the description of the popular tabs. So like you mainly go through suspension and tires, and obviously the drivetrain. The infos that are on the, I think, bottom right there listed. And those usually give away what kind of tune it is. So is it an off-road tune like this one, or a road racing tune, a drift tune, whatever it might be. And then you just check it out, and if you don't like the tune, you just look for another one. So there's no science behind this. These are not like the best tunes, it's just the ones that I happen to use that I think are working. And that doesn't mean they work for you or that they are best out there or anything, it's just I use them and they work, and why do something else when we're only playing against highly skilled AI. When you play multiplayer it's a little bit different, but against the AI like this. Say, is this was second or third? This was second race, right? It's kind of hard to talk about much when you're just dominating the race. Because there really isn't much science to this, it's just the AI is not very good in here. You just want to use that first lap to kind of put yourself in a good position now. And like I already said, the AI gets worse as the laps progress, so just make sure you don't fall too far behind. That would be bad. But parts like this of the track are actually pretty good to overtake because we're pretty hesitant through the corners and you can then overtake. Although overtaking in the city is not easy. Mainly because of tight roads, and when you leave the line and you compromise it, it's pretty hard to get back into a proper racing line without losing too much time, so you could make an argument that you should really only overtake in the city on those 1 or 2 fast corners and the straights, which aren't particularly many, and then save the overtakes for these corners here where the AI normally drives in fairly controlled, because obviously the AI can't drift, so it will drive through using grip, which it has a lot more than you, but you can use that to your advantage by cutting the line here a little bit and drifting into it, and cutting their line as well by using the drift. So here they will drive in and you could just drift into the corner and more or less block their path out of the corner by getting ahead with the drift, and then their good entry is negated, or their good exit as well, that they get by using their grip, because they can't use it when you drift in front of their nose, and then you don't have to get past, and then it does a little bit of stalemate, you negated their advantage and then you can get ahead. So it's a pretty good maneuver to make. It was a pretty long race, a pretty boring race as well. So that's race number 2. The best races are like nail biters that you win in the end. I mean, for the video purpose, it's probably good that I win so handsomely, because then I can actually talk about something. Super close races are fun when you can focus on them, but they make commentary pretty rough, because obviously you need to focus on the race and you can't really talk about anything you're doing. At least I can't, maybe I just suck, I don't know. So that's the last race, another sprint one. Luckily, like I said, I don't like circuit races that much. Much bigger fan of sprint races, especially for events like this. Probably just to save time, I guess. I like some circuits and road racing. So here, once again, try not to be overtaken at the start, because every spot you lose at the start is a spot you must take back, and that's annoying. Now you take a inside line here, and you want to stay on the inside here as well. Well, the X-Ray has an excellent acceleration. That was a lot of X's, although there was actually not that many. So yeah, these fast corners, you can see the AI is braking through and you can go more or less full throttle. And the racing line kind of gives it away, because the AI drives a lot according to the racing line. And when the racing line tells you to brake, that doesn't mean you actually have to brake, but the AI kind of uses that as a clue, and when they brake into these corners, you don't have to know. He was braking into that corner as well. Like, that's what I mean, the fast corners are so bad for the AI, because they often brake into them when you can more or less full throttle them. you just breeze by them at that point. You just need to know it's coming. You need to see, okay, there's a fast corner approaching, and then you kind of take a line into it that allows you to breeze past instead of just running up their ass. Which might be enjoyable in other circumstances, but certainly not in a race. So where is that? We are at 69%. Oh, Mr. We are at 70 already. Oh my. This is another corner. You can go full throttle to the left. You should slow down a little bit for the right, in my opinion. Where the racing line just goes crazy and tells you, oh, red, brake, whatever. So, yeah. You can save a lot of time by not listening to the racing line. And that finishes the race. That was very, actually 2.5 minutes. It's alright for a sprint race. And that gives us 60 points.
Ooh.
I mean, I guess it was pretty boring as well, but it wasn't that long, so that's fine. It's always like 5 seconds. I think that's when the... what is it called? The rubber banding sets in, and the AI is just pulled towards you to not fall back much more than these 5 seconds or so. So that is that, and that is the third of the championships. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. I hope you can beat this as well. Maybe you can take a clue about any corners that you can overtake in, about how you maybe need to drive it, which car makes sense to use. Or we can use all of them. I just don't like the X-Ray much because of its lack of top speed. But that's personal preference. And well, like I said, I hope you can do this. I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you for watching. Until next time, farewell.